call to order this Medicine Hat City Council meeting of April 20th, 2026. We will begin with a moment for prayer or reflection. The City of Medicine Hat acknowledges that we live and work on treaty territory. The city pays respect to all Indigenous peoples and honors their past, present, and future. We recognize and respect their cultural heritages and relationships to the land. Previous council meeting minutes of regular City Council meeting on April 7th, 2026. Any errors, omissions, or objections? Seeing none, council adopts the minutes of the April 7th, 2026 regular council meeting as presented. Next to the agenda. Is there any objections to the agenda or additions? Seeing no additions, council adopts the agenda of the April 20th, 2026 regular city council meeting as presented. Councillor announcements, we have a couple today. I will ask Councillor Reinish and then we'll go to Councillor Hellman.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through the chair, we just want to point out that the City of Medicine Hat won an Economic Development Award last week. The EDA Experience 2026 took place. EDA stands for Economic Developers Alberta, and at their award ceremony, Selena McLean-Moore and her team, including Tracy, Lisa, and Darren, won for most innovative approach to economic development in a medium-sized city. Now, the mayor, Councillors Faf, Mohammed, and I were there, and I would ask the mayor to replicate the cheer that she gave out when the award was announced, but I would not want to do that to the rest of council's eardrums, so I will just let the rest of council know that there was nobody in that room that was cheering louder than the four of us. So congratulations to the economic development team for their award. Also, I would like to mention the Rise Up documentary about the Rise Up Hot Air Balloon Festival. The documentary itself played at the Monarch Theatre over the weekend, and if you didn't have a chance to get to it, it's going to be debuting on YouTube. It's a wonderful documentary about a wonderful event that takes place every year in our city. And the Rise Up Hot Air Balloon Festival will be taking place this year from May 21st to the 24th. And again, the documentary will be debuting for everybody to see on YouTube real soon.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hellman.
Thank you, Mayor Clark. I just wanted to announce that this past Monday, Mayor Clark, Councillor Young, City Manager Hutter, and myself had the opportunity to travel to Edmonton to view one of their shelters, tour their navigation center, and also meet with the Minister of Mental Health and Addiction, the Minister of Assisted Living and Social Services, and then with the Premier to talk about options and opportunities for our community. So we had some very good meetings, saw some very good facilities that could perhaps be implemented here, and as a replacement, potential replacement shelter for our already existing shelter. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hellman. Any other councillor announcements? Okay. Seeing none, we will move on to the consent agenda. Does anyone have anything they'd like to pull out of the consent agenda?
Yes, please.
Councillor Pfaff.
I would like to pull out item 8.7, the 2024 Government Finance Officers Association Awards.
Anyone else? Okay, why don't we deal with that right now, Councillor Pfaff?
Sounds good. Okay, so I just wanted to point out that the City of Medicine Hat has once again been recognized by the Government Finance Officers Association, or GFOA for those of you in the know, for excellence in public financial reporting and budgeting, earning all 3 of the organization's awards and securing the coveted Triple Crown Award. For the year ending December 31st, 2024, the city received the Canadian Award for Financial Reporting for the, I would make you guys guess, but you can never guess that it's going to be for the 23rd year in a row, consecutively. I guess that's the same as in the row. As well as the popular Annual Financial Report Award for the 13th consecutive year. In addition, the city earned the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award for its 25-26 two-year budget. And the budget award has been received for the last 3 budget cycles since 2019. So the Triple Crown Award is presented to governments that receive all 3 GFOA awards within the same year, recognizing a comprehensive commitment to transparency, accountability, and excellence in financial management. The city's annual financial report was reviewed by an independent Canadian review committee, which evaluated the report for clarity, accessibility, and overall quality. The committee confirmed that the report is easily understandable for readers without a financial background and clearly communicates the city's financial story in a way that encourages users to read the report. End statement.
Thank you. So nothing really changed about that, so we're just gonna include it still in the consent agenda. And can I have a motion for adoption of the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Mohammed. Seconder?
Seconded.
Thank you, Councillor Reinish. We will vote on the motion to adopt the consent agenda. And that passes, and it's nice to have Councillor Varga back at the table so he can vote in person. We are now on unfinished business, bylaw 4878, 2026, the 2026 property tax and supplementary property tax rate. This bylaw received first reading on April 7th, 2026, and a motion was made with some recommendations to administration regarding the bylaw and budget. So I will invite Interim Managing Director Barta to provide an update presentation.
Thank you, and good evening, Council. I'm just going to flip through the slides here and go to the scenario that was requested at the last council meeting where the municipal tax rate is the same for all property tax classes. And I just need some help advancing. Melissa, please. Thank you. This is not the right one.
I'm sure it's going to be great.
Just
The
building it up.
anticipation,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's right, just building it up.
There it is. I was wondering why it said 2025. There we go.
All right. Perfect. Thank you, Melissa. All right. So we talked about a number of scenarios last time. We added an 8th scenario on here, which shows the municipal tax rate at 4.9% for all classes. So in this scenario, you can see that the multifamily tax ratio increases to 1.15, non-residential increase to 2.47. This does allocate the tax distribution amongst the classes more equally. And the tax revenue shortfall is 1.1 million, which through the motion was suggested that it be funded either through cost savings or operating reserves. Sorry, just before I leave this one, so in the table above, the monthly municipal tax impact for a single-family home would be $9.58, and that would be an annual tax impact of $115. And then these next slides, I just added scenario 8 in here. Again, this just shows the recommendation at 4.9%. And then this slide just provides a comparison of the original recommendation compared to the amended recommendation at 4.9. So for residential or single family, you can see that there's no change to education or Cypress view. Those would stay the same. The municipal tax from the 6.1% of annual amount of $2,451 will decrease by $27 to $2,424. And similar to multifamily and residential, you can see the changes there. So if council is in agreement, the recommendation would be to approve the municipal tax rate of 4.9% for all property tax classes, adopt the revised Education, Cypress View Foundation, and designated industrial property tax requisitions. We would also need approval of the budget amendment to fund 1.1 million from either cost savings and operating reserves, and then consider giving second and third reading to the bylaw as amended. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to take anything at this time.
Thank you very much. I believe I asked this last time, but when you say the first motion is to approve Education, Cypress View Foundation, and designated industrial property tax requisitions, that doesn't automatically happen when we approve the bylaw?
It is included as part of the bylaw, yes.
So do we have to do both?
No, I believe what's in the briefing note is what you guys can, so just approve the property tax bylaw.
Okay, so that, yeah, so I would ask for a motion that council approves the amendments to Schedule A of bylaw 4878, 2026 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Mohammed. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote on the motion. That passes. Next up, we will need a motion for second reading of bylaw 4878, 2026 as amended.
So moved.
Seconded.
Thank you. So this is second reading, so there's room for debate. Any discussion? Can't see the, are you voting or trying to talk? Okay, I can't see the speakers list right now because the vote is up, but you can speak. It's your turn.
So I was asked by Rogers Television to make some comment on this procedure last week, and I did so. And I will basically reiterate what I said there, which is you can see on YouTube. I support this, as with many things in politics, and certainly surrounding budgets and tax rates. Compromise is necessary and has to be found in order that we can set a bylaw and proceed forward. So I support this. I supported the amendments, and I support second reading of the tax bylaw as amended, basically endorsing the 4.9% increase. For a number of people, this debate has been going on in closed council for some time as we reviewed budget options. We had several proposals presented last week, and we couldn't come to consensus on any of them. But we did propose that a 4.9% increase by amendments to reflect a 4.9% increase be drafted and ready for approval. I support those. I would have supported, and I'm prepared to say so, I would have supported a higher tax rate. There were certainly those who still support a lower tax rate. I believe that our taxes in Medicine Hat are fair and reasonable and lower than most places. We have some challenges on the expense side of the ledger, and those are going to be addressed in the budget, which we are going to start debating forthwith. And I support that discussion, and I think there are ways that this city can save money and lower costs. But for the time being, we have a budget that was approved by the previous council. We have a situation where the city took no tax rate increase for 2 years in a row during COVID, and we are behind the 8 ball, in my opinion. And so I support this. I would have supported a higher increase and a lesser dip into reserves. I'm not going to debate the strengths and weaknesses of that at this point. I find myself in support of this general 4.9% overall tax increase, and I certainly undertake to look very closely at the budget discussions that are coming up. We do need to find ways to cut costs and save money, but that's not the purpose of this council at this time.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. Just on that point, I will note that that's one of the purposes of the Budget Committee, which it will be coming forward at a future meeting, maybe combined with another committee, but definitely that's one of the items on that agenda, and I'm grateful to Lola for, Intermanaging Director Barta for putting this forward and being open to work with us on finding some expense savings. So very much appreciated. I don't see anyone else on the speakers list. So we're going to vote on second reading of bylaw 4878-2026 as amended. That passes. Next, we have third reading and final reading of bylaw 4878-2026 as amended. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote on. Okay, Councillor Young.
I am a bit surprised we're not having more of a discussion. As always, I think I say that every council meeting. I'm surprised because I know there's lots of discussions that are happening outside. So I wish we would do a little bit more talking in front of people. I just through the chair to Councillor Cox, really appreciate perspectives. Reiterate that this council is a bit divided on this one, just like the community is divided on this one. We're about to see the community survey results, and you'll see in there, we've already seen them. But you'll see in there, there's, 40-odd% of people are saying cut services, 40-odd% of people are saying increase taxes. So this isn't a cut and dry issue. This is a very divided issue, and I think for us, it's about coming to a balanced approach. I think that I don't fault administration for coming and saying this is the cost of running the city. We all know that the costs of running the city are increasing. Some of our revenues are decreasing. But the reality is people are also feeling that pressure, and they're feeling that pressure from everybody, not just from the municipal government, but from all types of governments. And so it's a challenge to go, our costs are increasing, so we're gonna pass that on to you. That's a big challenge. But the options we have, we're not here to debate the budget. The budget is the budget. We gotta come up with $99 million. The debate is how do we do that? From my perspective, right away, to jump into savings and say, well, we're just gonna cover this. I've had people come and say, you know what, Stu, you guys should do is just, you got a big piggy bank. Reach into there and grab all of it, and then no one has to, there's no issue. But the challenge with that is that doesn't solve an issue. All that does is push the issue down the road. And so I think that what this is, I think we're in a bridge year here. I think we're accepting a budget and we're going, hey, we've been approached with 6.1%. We don't think that that's appropriate, so we're coming down. There's been a lot of discussion on how we should have came down further. We're coming down to 4.9%. We feel like that's a little bit more livable. We're pulling $1 million from savings as well as looking at some costs savings, so there's that. But the reality is going into reserves doesn't solve the issue. To Councillor Cox, how this issue is solved is through understanding our costs. We absolutely have an issue in this city when it comes to our rising costs. Thank you to City Manager Hutter and Councillor Clugston for getting us some information. We've looked at our budgets from 2016 to 2026. And what we've seen in that budget is we've seen a significant increase in our budget. Again, I could be reading this correct. I want to be careful with the numbers, but I think what I've seen is about a 45 to 50% increase in our expenses over that year, where we have inflation's only doing 25%. So right now, our costs are significantly outpacing inflation. So what do? The answer isn't to go to the taxpayers and say, hey, you guys got to figure this out. The answer is for us around this table, working in partnership with the community, working in partnership with administration to say, how are we figuring that out going forward? And I think we just have to put everything on the table. So I support this for this year. In my personal opinion, this is the high watermark. We're not going above this. We're only going to get better and better at this, is my opinion. But let's take a little bit out of savings right now and let's get better at this as a city. Let's figure out our costs and whatever that looks like. I don't think we can just come and say, oh, let's just cut 20%. And I don't think that's good leadership. I think what we have to do is we have to be strategic. Let's be strategic together with administration to identify where we can cut those costs. So I know I'm on a bit of a diatribe here. I just want people to know that we're thinking about this and we want to get as good as we can. So appreciate your time.
Councillor Mohammed.
Thank you. I just, through the chair, just want to, I think, echo what has been already been said. Appreciate the comment. I think that one of the things that has really been important in this conversation is we listen to, the community, and we also look internally and see that we have an opportunity to move it down to 4.9. That gives us the time to be able to go into budget season and also kind of gauge what our cost is as a city. So I believe that enough has been said on that, but I just wanted to continue to echo that. And I guess I'm going to save my other comment for when we go to the other motion. But yeah, thank you.
Councillor Reinish.
Thank you very much. Through the chair. Maybe I'm just looking at this from the positive side, but I see this as a win for Medicine Hat taxpayers. The previous council had approved a 5.6% tax increase, and we've moved that down to 4.9%. So the people in Medicine Hat who very much know that everything is costing a little bit more and everything is being charged for more, there's a few extra dollars that will be in the people of Medicine Hat's pockets when the tax bill comes around, and I see that as a good thing. I also see the fact that this council really cares about the taxes, and as we're getting ready to start our first budget, I'm very optimistic about what we're going to do for the people of Medicine Hat over the next year.
Councillor Hellman.
Thank you, Mayor Clark. I just wanted to say that I'm in support of this 4.9% increase. I know we had initially looked at a 6.1% increase. And I'd heard from a lot of citizens that we should just pay a significant portion out of it out of our reserves, which again is a slow way of kicking the increases down the road as our tax base doesn't grow in line with inflation. So throwing a couple million in this year means double that million next year and so on and so on. It compounds. So I think we've made a rational decision here to use some reserve funds this year. And also look at some cost savings throughout the rest of the budget year, and see if we can find some savings, and then commit to looking for efficiencies going into our next budget cycle. And I would echo Councillor Young there that I would see this 4.9% increase as a high watermark, and we would be looking to step that down in future years. Thank you.
Thank you. Interim Managing Director Barda, you don't have to, but if you had any comments on the relationship between inflation and the percent that our costs have gone up over the last decade, you don't have to if you don't want to.
Yeah, I can make a few comments. I don't have the exact numbers, but we have seen inflation increase over the years. We've seen that happen after COVID. What we are seeing increasing are wages and salaries through contract negotiations. So we've seen those go higher than what inflation is, higher than that 2% mark. So that is impacting a lot of our costs. The other items that we are also seeing because of the cost increases is bringing more things in-house and just changing the way that we're delivering the services. So every time we make a change, it's going to cost more. Adding more in-house, doing it internally, that sort of thing is going to increase our costs. I had mentioned last time that some of the budget decisions that were made in 2025 had impacted the tax rate by 2.11%. So as those budget amendments happen year over year, that is continuing to impact the tax increase and our costs, which eventually increases the taxes. So that's part of the reasons why we're seeing those costs increase.
And it's a fixed basket of goods that inflation is based on, the calculation?
Yeah, so when we look at Alberta inflation, it's all in. Yep.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for your respectful comments. And with that, we will vote on third reading of bylaw 4878, 2026 as amended. Did you have your name on? That passes. Just wanted to confirm that you're looking for a budget amendment of 1.1 million?
Correct.
1.1? Okay.
Yes.
So, if the next motion would be that council approves a budget amendment of 1.1 million through municipal cost savings. And I know, and in the, sorry, that's why I asked for clarification. Through municipal cost savings, and in the event that the savings are not sufficient to cover the shortfall, the remaining portion will be funded through the operating reserve, Tax Rate Stabilization Reserve.
It is 1.1, not 1.5.
Yes.
Correct. The 4.9% is 1.1 million.
So move.
Thank you.
Seconded.
All right. Any discussion? Let's see. Oh, Councillor Mohammed?
So, I mean, this question might be for either Managing Director Barda or Interim City Manager. In the past, when we look at cost containment and trying to find somewhere within our budget to trim and how long does it take to be able to find $1 million or so? And you don't have to have the answer now.
So, excuse me, when we looked at this previously, sorry. As part of the 2026 budget, we had a 2 million efficiency target that we were looking for cost reductions in that. How long does it take? Like, we would have to take this back to the departments and take a look at where we can cut to find the 1 million or 1.1 million or a portion thereof. It depends whether we're going to impact services or if we can look at other opportunities where we don't have to impact services. So that will have to be a discussion that will happen, and then we will likely bring that back to council to report on where those reductions came from.
Okay. No, thank you. And the reason why I ask is because you guys know I'm a big part of, let's try and make sure we don't dip into reserves if we don't have to. And part of the reason is just like any other business, when you catch yourself dipping into your savings or your personal savings, you're in trouble. So I think many of us have been advocating for that and trying to say let's try and work with you guys to figure that out. So I am really agreeing with this motion based on the fact that we're going to try and do our best to make sure we find some cost savings here. So thank you.
Councillor Young?
Thank you. And just to reiterate, Councillor Mohammed, I can appreciate that. Like our reserves are strategic. Our reserves aren't intended to cover operational inefficiencies or operational deficits, right? We cover operational deficits through spending and changing our spending. And to Managing Director Barta, I think, we've been given this choice between increasing, sorry, not to you, to everyone, but we've been given this choice between increasing taxes or seeing this major reduction in services. I don't think that's necessarily the right perfect dichotomy. I do think there's a middle ground. Yes, we might have to have a reduction in services. We have 41% of people, as we're about to see, I'm letting the cat out of the bag here, but that say, like, it's okay if we have a reduction in services. It's about what are those services. And at the end of the day, we have to have a reduction in costs, whatever that is. So I agree with you. We can't just keep pulling from the piggy bank because we need that piggy bank for strategic things. So looking forward to working with you guys on this.
As opposed to letting the cat out of the bag, perhaps we can say you foreshadowed
Thank
what
you.
is to come.
Well, it's not necessarily because it's in the public documents. I mean, if anyone
Yes,
read
it
the agenda, they would have already seen that. So, yeah.
I was just teasing you.
Thank you, Mayor Clark.
I don't see any more speakers, so we'll vote on the motion to approve a budget amendment of 1.1 million through anticipated cost savings. And that passes as well. Next up is item 9.2. Thank you very much, interim manager and city auditor, nope, assessor, sorry about that. Bylaw 4879, 2026, tax penalties bylaw. This bylaw received first reading on April 7th, 2026. We are on second reading, and I'm looking for a motion to give second reading to bylaw 4879, 2026.
So move.
Thank you.
Seconded.
Thank you, Councillor Reinish. Any discussion?
Do you want me to speak to it?
I would love you to speak to it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so bylaw 4879-022026, tax penalties bylaw. So tax penalties are intended to encourage timely payment and are designed to be fair and reflective of market practices. Penalties are applied on the first business day of each month based on the prior month's outstanding balance. While penalties are not compounded, they form part of the tax balance in accordance with the Municipal Government Act. Current tax penalties are charged monthly after the tax due date until year end, while arrears penalties are charged monthly to unpaid balances from the previous years. In 2025, approximately 1,800 taxpayers incurred current penalties and 1,000 incurred arrears penalties. To help residents manage payments, 2 installment options are available. Tax Installment Payment Plan, TIPP or TIP, for current taxes, and Tax Arrears Installment Payment Plan, which allows for repayment of arrears over a 2-year period or until the next tax sale date, whichever occurs first. Penalty rates for unpaid taxes are established by using market rates from the average of the rates of the 7 mid-sized municipalities. Based on the benchmark of the comparators, average charges show a higher rate of 16.7% for arrears penalties and a lower rate of 14.3% for a current penalty. Our recommendation is not to charge higher for arrears, but to blend the rate so that is the same for current and arrears penalty. The proposed amendment to the tax penalties rate bylaw is to increase the rates from 15% to 15.5% in 2027 and 16% in 2028.
Thank you very much. Any other speakers? Seeing none, we'll vote on second. Oh, Councillor Cox?
Why the increase from 15.5 to 6?
15.
Sorry, where am I here? 15, to increase to 15.5 from 15 and arrears to 16. Why are we, the penalties, I mean, why are we changing the penalty? Penalties are penalties. Why are we going up with our penalties?
Managing Director Barda?
Yeah, so again, with inflationary costs, administrative processing costs and so on, we want to make sure that we are collecting enough to cover those costs. When we compare with other municipalities as well, we want to make sure that we are comparative with those other municipalities. And again, it is an incentive for people to pay their bills. We want to do small increases rather than, not go without a rate increase and then 1 year you bump it up too high. So we want to kind of be consistent with those smaller increases a long time.
So, a supplementary question, if I may, Your Worship. Are you saying we're not recovering our costs at 15%? I mean, and can you give me an indication of what the mean is for the average mean is for other communities? I mean, 15% seems like a significant penalty. And I hesitate to support an increase in that. And you're saying this is the start of a plan to get us in a better position. So where are we headed with this?
So it is an incentive, I'm going to say, that you wouldn't get charged a penalty. If you paid your taxes on time, you're not going to incur that penalty. And so it is a means to ensure that people do pay their taxes on time. When we compared to other municipalities, we found that the average was, for current penalties, was 14.3%, and for arrears was 16.7%. So by keeping our penalties at 15.5 and 16%, we're landing right in the middle of those other average municipalities that we're comparing to.
And there is a chart on page 281, if you want the full detail of that. Councillor Clugston?
Well, since I didn't say anything during the tax increase debate, and council knows where I stand on that, I'm going to say something. This one drives me nuts. It has driven me nuts for years. I remember when we raised it from 13 to 14 and 14 to 15, covering our costs. This is secured debt. That's very, very different. We're charging credit card interest rates, borderline. So I agree with you, Councillor Cox, on secured debt. I understand that you want to get people to pay their property taxes, but when they don't, a 15.5% on a $5,000 bill, it's a lot of money. And most times when people aren't paying their property taxes, it's because of some other struggle in their life or that we just raised them by 4.9%. And now you knock them with another 15.5% on secured debt. Nowhere in the world do you pay 15.5% on secured debt. That's a credit card interest rates on unsecured. And so, I mean, not only is 15.5% absolutely ridiculous, it should be around the 5 or 6%, which is our cost of, well, our cost of money is around 2 to 3%. And I don't, sorry, Managing Director, I don't buy that we're not covering our costs. This is huge profit for us. When you think about an unpaid a business with 10,000 in unpaid property tax, boom, 15% if they miss the deadline, it's big money. So I won't be supporting this one either.
Did you want to respond?
I would just say that the majority of taxpayers will pay their bills on time, and so those that choose not to pay their bills on time would incur a penalty. There are other mechanisms to avoid that penalty if they are having difficulty in paying their taxes. As was mentioned, they could go on the TIP program. They can contact our collections team to make other payment arrangements. We're willing to work with the customers so that they don't incur this penalty. But I'm going to say there's a fairness that comes in. If I decide to pay my taxes and someone else doesn't, you know, what's to say that what would encourage people to pay their taxes on time if we didn't have a penalty in place?
Thank you. Councillor Young?
Yeah, recognize that there needs to be a penalty and respect Managing Director Barta. Sorry, I always have the biggest trouble with like the name, like yeah, so respect that. And I don't think that you're being untowards or greedy or anything. I think you're just looking at costs and you're saying, hey, this is what it costs. The challenge that I would say with respect is we keep saying we're coming in the middle. Well, no, the middle is average. The middle is 14.3%. We're already at 15%. So we're asking to go 15.5%. There's only 2 municipalities that are ahead of that, Strathcona County and the City of St. Albert. So at 15.5%, and then if we move again to 2027 to 16%, now we're even higher. So with respect, I don't believe that we're trying to find the middle ground. Again, maybe I'm misunderstanding something here. And I think a 0.5% is not going to make a lick of difference to someone on, oh, well, I better pay my taxes now because last year it was 15% and this year it's 15.5%, so I better pay my taxes. People don't pay their taxes because they don't have the money to pay their taxes at the time. So to Councillor Clugston, I agree. I think 15% is a lot. If we move it up to 15.5, we're going to get an extra $40,000 a year. We can absolutely come up with that in savings in other areas. I don't fault administration for trying to get costs. I don't think you're the bad guy, but I also think that it's not the right move.
I'm just wondering if Councillor Hellman or the Chair of Corporate Services wanted to weigh in. I think it has something to do with the arrears versus.
Yeah, and if I've like misinterpreted that, I apologize.
Yeah.
I need some clarity.
Councillor Hellman?
Yeah, thank you through the chair. So it was 16.7 was the rate for the high rate for arrears. So we're below that, and then the 14.3 was the current penalty. So our 15% is above the 14.3 for current by a bit, but it's below quite a bit the arrears rate of 16.7. So what we're doing is putting the two, we're just making it the same. It's already the same in between the two, but we don't have two separate rates there, if that makes sense.
I think it makes sense. One is going up and the other one's going down. We're meeting in the middle. Is that correct? Or they're both going up?
They're both going up, but we don't have, like our arrears rate and our current penalty rate is the same number.
Okay.
But
And
we're
in other
comparing it to two
communities?
different numbers. We're comparing it to an arrears of 16.7 and a current of 14.3. So
Thank you. I appreciate that because then it actually is in the middle because we're looking at that 16.7%. That being said, it's still $40,000 a year. So I think we're good. Like if anything, Councillor Clugston thinks we should be having the opposite conversation right now about lowering it. So I think we're okay.
Councillor Mohammed?
Thank you. I guess you've kind of answered my question. I guess my question was around the impact on people, the vulnerable residents. And mitigation that exists. So you said that there are some programs and payment plans. Have you seen an uptake on those, and have people been able to go through that program and pay their bills? Maybe if you don't mind talking a little bit on that.
Yeah, I don't have the exact numbers of, we're constantly getting people to sign up for our TIP program, the tax installment payment program, which is a monthly payment. Every month you would get split it across 12 months, right? So it's more manageable than getting a bill in June to pay a full amount. And then the tax arrears program is also a monthly installment payment plan. So that seems more manageable for people if they can pay a monthly amount rather than one lump sum.
Okay. I guess my question is, are people still stuck, or is that actually working?
I believe the people who are on the plan, I believe it is working.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Hellman.
Thank you through the chair to Interim Managing Director Barta. So just so I'm understanding correctly, if we're on the TIP plan or the TAP plan, are we paying these interest rates on a monthly basis, or are we interest-free on those as long as we're on the plan? So we're interest-free as long as we're on the plan?
That's correct.
So somebody that is in arrears or has a current penalty on their taxes doesn't have to pay any interest if they go on a payment plan with us. They have the option to pay zero interest. This is for people that are unable to pay their taxes and choose not to go on a repayment plan, then they pay the interest. So there is an opportunity to not pay any interest.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Young?
I don't mean to debate, but I just want to make sure I got clarity on that. Do they have to sign up for TIP prior to not being able to pay? Like, they can't not pay and then go, hey, I don't want to pay the interest, so I'm going to do TIP, right? You have to sign up for TIP first, and then, well, of course, you're not going to not pay your tax. You're not, because you're on a payment plan. So yeah, you have to sign up first.
Correct, yeah.
But you can still sign up once you've missed your payment?
No, so there is a
No.
timing of when you need to sign up for the TIP plan. I believe if you come like to June 30th and you're wanting to sign up, you do have to pay the penalty for the first 6 months, I believe is how it works, and then you would get on the plan. But if you were to sign up prior to that, then there would be no penalty.
That is what I was trying to get at. I apologize for not saying it clearly as you have. My question is, this is not intended to just increase infinitely, like part of it, because it's a percentage as property inflates, so does the penalty, property value inflates, so does penalty. Because I guess I'm just wondering, this is not like a every year kind of thing. This is intended to be like fairly stable year over year. Question mark.
Yeah, so it would be based off of the tax that you would owe. So in that chart on page 281, it does show the proposed increase. So it would go from $1.25% a month to 1.28% per month. And then in 2028, it would go up to 1.33%. So it's a slight increase per month, but it would be on the monthly amount that's outstanding.
Yes, thank you. But this rate is not intended to keep going up and up and up. Like this should, are you planning on bringing this back kind of every year, or?
So normally at every budget cycle, we would look at it and review it and see where our competitors are at and if it's still reasonable. So it may come back So this is to set this up for the 27-28 budget cycle. So then the next time that we would look at this would be in 2029 to 30 through that budget cycle. So it may go down potentially. It would just be, we would look at what our other competitors are doing, comparators, sorry.
Councillor Cox?
Which confirms for me, and I think probably Councillor Cluxton, that we're chasing the average. We're not chasing the average, we're chasing the high point. We think we should be getting as much in arrears and much in penalties for current and arrears as other communities. And we're going up. And this is a 2-year increase to 15.5 this year and 16% for next year. So I hope we wouldn't even consider going any higher than that, but I don't think we need to chase the mean, the average. I think our taxes are reasonable. People don't pay them. It's not a question of choice. It's for reasons beyond their control. And I think 15% is adequate, and so I won't be supporting this.
Any other speakers? All right. Consequences of not moving this up budget-wise, or is that impossible to predict until next year?
No, in the financial section, it says that it would increase revenues by $40,000 in each year, so that would be the impact to our budget.
And we could just absorb that because we're doing the upcoming budget. Okay, thank you. We'll vote on the second reading? Was it second reading? Okay, we're voting on second reading of bylaw 4879-202. 2026, sorry. That does not pass, so we do not need to do third reading. The bylaw was defeated. 9.3, bylaw 4880-2026, tax certificate and information fees bylaw. First reading of this bylaw occurred on April 7th, 2026. The motion on the table, or for council, is that council gives second reading to bylaw 4880-2026.
So move.
Seconded.
Councillor Hellman, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, through the chair. Sorry, 1 second. So bylaw 4880-2026, tax certificate and information fees bylaw. Fees and charges are reviewed as part of the city's budget process and presented for council approval for the 2027-2028 year period, with the objective of ensuring there are fair, cost-reflective, and aligned with market expectations. Property owners can access tax and assessment notices, account balances, and assessment summary information at no charge through e-tax, with optional e-billing available. Fees apply to specific services such as tax certificates, which are primarily requested by legal firms during property sale transactions, detailed assessment information requests, which are subject to a fee under the Municipal Government Act. Mortgage administration fees are charged to financial institutions for the administration costs and for property accounts paid by their mortgage company. Proposed fees are established by looking at the average fees of the 7 mid-sized municipalities as well as consideration of the actual processing costs. The request is to increase the tax certificate, assessment information, and mortgage administration fees. All other rates in the bylaw will have no change in 2027 and 2028.
Thank you, Councillor Hellman. Any discussion? Councillor Cox?
Well, I don't understand why they wouldn't Like, are we making a decision for 2028? Why would we be doing that now? You're saying it's not gonna impact these fees for the next 2 years?
I believe that's because it's setting up for the next budget cycle, but I will refer it to Managing Director Barda.
Yeah, that's correct. So we're asking for a fee increase for our next budget cycle for 2027 and 2028.
We're not into that budget cycle yet.
No, so this will take effect January 1st, 2027, but we're just requesting approval so we can start our budgeting process.
So it would start in 2027.
Correct.
Okay. My only comment would be, these fees are significant. As a retired lawyer, these expenses count. When you're buying a house and you've got legal bills and mortgage costs and appraisal costs, and the fee for a tax certificate is become more than small change. So I won't be supporting this either.
Councillor Mohammed?
So is this, so the cost that we're charging for, is it partial cost or full recovery of our cost?
Sorry, can you
For the
say that?
certificate, is it a partial cost to what it cost us to issue those certificates, or what are we recovering?
Yeah, so we're just covering administrative costs for creating those certificates.
Okay, thank you.
Seeing no further speakers, we will vote on the second reading. That passes. Third reading, Councillor Hellman?
Thank you, through the chair. I move that council gives third and final reading to bylaw 4880-2026, amending the tax certificate bylaw 3031, establishing the 2027 and 2028 rates as attached.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing no speakers, we'll vote on. Oh, did we get a second? We didn't get a seconder. I apologize.
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Reinish. Still seeing no speakers, we'll vote on third and final reading of the amending the tax certificate bylaw. That passes. Next up, again, out of corporate services, 9.4, bylaw 4881 to 2026, unpaid general accounts bylaw.
Thank you. I move that council give second reading to bylaw 4880-2226. 2026. No,
Second.
sorry, 4881-02.
That's right.
2026.
You done?
I'm done.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, through the chair. So bylaw 4881-2026, unpaid general accounts bylaw. The city invoices and collects about 33 million annually through its general accounts receivable system, which is used to bill a wide range of municipal services across many departments. Accounts with outstanding balances receive monthly statements. Penalty charges are applied to encourage timely payment. The unpaid general accounts bylaw, originally established in 1980, now requires updating to reflect the changes implemented in the new Unit 4 AR software. The new update would impose penalties on the first business day of the month following the due date of the invoice rather than 30 days from the date of the mailing address or the mailing of the invoice. This charge aligns with the software, allows more time for customers to make their payment before penalties apply, and aligns better with businesses that pay their bills from their monthly statements. We are not making any changes to the current fee. It will stay the same at 1.5%. This request is for a change to the bylaw wording of the penalty application to match what the AR system is currently doing.
Thank you. Any further speakers? Seeing none, we'll vote on second reading of bylaw 4881, 2026. That passes. Third reading.
Thank you. I move that council gives third and final reading to bylaw 4881-2026, amending the unpaid general accounts bylaw 1981 to impose penalties if invoices remain unpaid after the due date shown on the invoice instead of 30 days from the date of the mailing of the invoice.
Seconded.
Thank you. And Councillor Cluxton?
So, thank you, through the chair. I voted no against this because you called the question very quickly, which I appreciate, but I was going to say something on second reading. I need to get this straight in my head. Councillor Hellman said it gives the customer more time to pay, but the background material is actually less time. So help me understand. It used to be if we mailed the bill on the 1st, that's when the clock started ticking. You had 30 days from when the bill was mailed, no matter when you got it in the mail. Now the bill is due from when we produce it in our computer, but if it takes us 2 or 3 weeks to mail it out, and then it takes another 2 weeks for the mail to get to your house, you get the bill, unless I'm reading this wrong, 2 weeks after it's due. And the penalty is applied from when the bill was due, not when you received it in the mail. And if, please, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, because I've read it 3 times and I still can't get it straight.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I had to read it a few times as well when I first saw this. So it does give more time for the customers. So it's, previously it was 30 days from the date of mailing the invoice. Now it's the month following the due date. So if we date it April 1st and the due date is 30 days from that date, they actually have until June to pay. So this works better with businesses that pay on statements, because if they get 5 invoices throughout the month, they don't want to pay every invoice. They want to wait till they get their statement at the end of the month and then pay their bill. So this works out better for them, and it does give them almost an extra month timeline. Hopefully that provides some clarity on that.
Do you have a follow-up, Councillor Cluxton?
Sorry, I'm just trying to read the background information again, but it says in here, I can't find it.
We can go to Councillor Mohammed and then come back to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, maybe I need to find some information too, but how many accounts have been caught or penalized under this? Do you have any idea?
I
guess,
don't
are there a
have a
lot of
number
people?
on that.
Okay.
I can find out for you if that's something.
Yeah, I'm just
It's-
wondering how many people, are caught and, not paying on time due to the process. That's really what I'm trying to ask.
Yeah, the revenue generated from this is about $11,000.
Okay.
Councillor Cluxton?
So it just says, and this is maybe why I was having my trouble, it says a penalty application aligned with the software application as well as previously benefited the invoiced customer. This provided customers with additional time to make their payments before penalties were applied. That's right in the decision item. So that's where my confusion was. It sounded like it was benefiting the customer before, and now we're making a change that obviously ergo will not benefit the customer.
Can you provide a paragraph?
Page
heading?
295, paragraph 3.
Do you see that?
Yeah, I'm just reading the paragraph. Yeah, so it's because of the change that it will provide customers, maybe it just wasn't worded properly in that paragraph, but it does provide customers additional time to make their payments.
So the decision item is post-change, it provides
Correct.
customer. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. We will vote on third and final reading of bylaw 4881, 2026. And that passes. New business, item 10.1, the previously foreshadowed Community Survey Report 2026. We have with us Catherine Knaus, is that right? Knaus, thank you. Director of Public Affairs from Ipsos, and she will have a presentation for us, as well as Colleen Graham, Director of Communications, Engagement, and Marketing, will be here if there are any additional questions. So this is just for information, and you can begin your presentation, unless you would like to introduce it.
I would.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you, Mayor Clark. Community Survey Report 2026. So the City of Medicine Hat has conducted a biennial community survey since 2022 to support informed strategic planning and decision-making. The most recent survey was carried out by Ipsos from February 2nd to 16th, 2026, and targeted residents aged 18 and older. Using a randomized telephone methodology, 95% cell phone and 5% landline, Ipsos surveyed 400 residents. The survey is scientifically designed and weighted by age, neighborhood, and other demographic factors to ensure results are representative of the broader community. Based on this methodology, findings are accurate within plus minus 4.9%, or 19 times out of 20. The survey gathers resident feedback on key community issues and satisfaction with municipal services, benchmarks results against other municipalities, and enables the city to monitor trends over time. Concurrent to the scientific survey conducted by phone, an open online survey was available on the city's website, providing an opportunity for those who were not contacted by Ipsos to participate and share their feedback. The results of the online survey are reported separately from the scientific survey, as they are not considered representative of the community as a whole, as people had self-selected to participate, which can result in bias. So I will now turn it over to Catherine Knaus, Director of Public Affairs from Ipsos, who will walk us through the results.
Thank you very much. You can hear me okay?
We can, thank you.
Okay, and I'm just going to share my screen. So can you let me know when you see that okay?
We see it.
Perfect. Okay, well, thank you very much for the introduction. I'm happy to be here to present the results of this year's community survey. Today's presentation is a focus on some of the key highlights coming out of the survey, and a more detailed review and summary can be found in the full report. Just want to quickly start with an overview of the objectives and methodology. The main purpose of the survey is to understand community sentiment around a variety of city topics, and here we look at perceptions of both the community and the city itself. Ipsos has conducted this survey on the city's behalf since 2022, and it is conducted every 2 years. So this is the third survey that we've conducted on your behalf. And repeating it at these regular intervals allows the city to monitor changes in opinion over time. The methodology is consistent with past surveys. So for this research, Ipsos conducts a random and representative telephone survey with adult Medicine Hat residents. It included a sample size of 400, and everybody was screened to confirm that they meet these qualifying criteria. And this survey excludes those who work for the city, either a staff or an elected official. Interviewing was conducted using numbers from both cell phones and landlines. It was fielded in February, between February 2nd and 16th. The final data was weighted by gender and age to ensure the characteristics of the sample matched that of the actual population in Medicine Hat, according to the 2021 census. And overall results based on a sample size of 400 are accurate to within plus or minus 4.9 percentage point 19 times out of 20. As mentioned, we also did conduct an open online survey. This was conducted at the same time as the telephone survey, included all of the same questions, but because it is this open link self-selecting methodology, it is not considered as representative of the community. And so for that reason, the results of the two surveys have been reported separately. And in this presentation, I'm going to focus specifically on the telephone survey results, but the online survey results have been included in that full report. So when we look at overall quality of life, the overall quality of life in Medicine Hat continues to be perceived positively. We have 93% of residents rating the quality of life as good overall, and that includes 30% saying very good and 63% saying good. Only 6% rate the quality of life poorly. We did see this metric drop slightly in 2024, so it was sitting at 90%, down from 95% in 2022 when we first did the survey. Happy to report that that is trending up again now. It's at 93%, so not a statistically significant difference, but still heading in the right direction. And as a result, this year's results are on par or even slightly higher than the municipal norm. When we asked residents how they feel the quality of life has changed over the past 3 years, here we see a bit of a mixed view of opinions. 46% of residents feel the quality of life has stayed the same, and a roughly equal proportion, 45%, feel the quality of life has worsened. Only 8% report feeling an improvement in quality of life over the past 3 years. When we calculate a net score to get a sense of the momentum that quality of life has, we do see a negative net score of minus 37. And this is very comparable to what we saw in the 2024 survey and also comparable to the norm. This is one question where we've seen trending down in a lot of communities over the past few years. It speaks to some of the challenges facing residents today. And I guess I forgot to say at the beginning, the norm is based on research that Ipsos has conducted and other Canadian municipalities within the past 5 years. So when we're looking at the norm as a benchmark against which to evaluate your results, that's what that is based on. Apologies, I should have mentioned that sooner. At the start of the survey, we asked residents to identify what they feel are the most important local issues facing the community. And this question is asked on an open-ended basis, so residents aren't prompted in their mentions, free to say whatever is on their mind, and then we code them into these categories on the back end. As you can see, social issues continue to be seen as the most important issue facing the community, mentioned by 37% of residents on that open-ended basis. That is up from 29% in 2024 and from 20% in 2022. So as a whole, these kind of social issues have been trending up over the past each time the survey has been conducted. As to what's included in that, the most frequent mention is around poverty and homelessness. So that's what's making up most of those social issues. And I can tell you that a lot of those mentions are specifically just with people mentioning homelessness or the homeless population. There are some mentions about the homeless shelter and how that was closed. So there's a need for a new homeless shelter. Some mentions of poverty. The city needs to try and deal with homelessness. There's been an increase in the homeless population. Those are some of what's included in some of those mentions around poverty and homelessness.
I just want a quick pause. I understand why people might think that we don't have a homeless shelter, but we do have a homeless shelter. I just wanted to correct that because it is a bit pervasive in the community. We don't want to reinforce that. So we definitely do have a homeless shelter. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I'm just repeating back some of the verbatim comments that were provided in the survey. Yeah. Other social issues would include housing, the lack of affordable housing, drug use and addiction, and seniors issues. Following social issues, the economy is mentioned, sits in second, garnering 20% of mentions. And here this includes things around the cost of living, economic development, employment, job creation, and tourism. Mentions are consistent with what we've seen in past surveys. Rounding out the top 5 would be taxation, municipal government spending, municipal government services, and transportation at 15%, 15%, and 14% respectively. Mentions of taxation municipal government spending have increased this year, but that's been offset by a decrease in mentions around municipal government services. The other one to point out here is city leadership and governance. This was actually the third most important issue mentioned in 2024 at 21%. That's down to 2% this year. So on a top of mind basis, it barely registers this year, whereas in 2024, like I said, it was the third most important issue overall. Overall satisfaction with city services remains positive. 90% of residents say they're satisfied overall, including 27% saying very satisfied and 63% saying somewhat satisfied. This is comparable to what we saw in past surveys, and it is higher than the norm. So overall satisfaction with city services in Medicine Hat is higher than average. Satisfaction extends to the delivery of specific services. Here we look at a number of different services and ask residents how satisfied they are. The majority of residents are satisfied with all of the services that were asked about in the survey. The overall highest ratings go to garbage and recycling services, with 98% of residents saying they're satisfied, including more than 2/3 saying very satisfied, as well as parks, trails, and other green space. There you have 94% of residents saying they're satisfied. Strong satisfaction scores also for recreational facilities and programs, cultural and entertainment facilities and programs, bylaw enforcement, maintenance, cleaning, upgrading of streets and sidewalks. A little bit lower for public transit, communication with residents, and then traffic management and improving the flow of traffic sits at the bottom this year, with 67% of residents saying they're satisfied. On the whole, this year's satisfaction ratings are comparable to the last survey, with a couple of exceptions. So we've seen an increase in satisfaction with communication with residents this year. This is one that dropped in 2024. It has rebounded this year. So that's not comparable to what we saw in 2022. Whereas there's been a decrease in satisfaction with traffic management that slips from 74% to 67%. Compared to the municipal norm, Medicine Hat residents are more satisfied with several services, including garbage and recycling, maintenance, cleaning, and upgrading of streets and sidewalks, and traffic management. So even though that sits at the bottom and has slipped, it's still higher than we typically see. Moving on to perceptions of value for taxes. Most residents say they receive good value for their municipal tax dollars overall. That's 77%, including 20% saying very good value and 57% saying fairly good value. This is one we saw slip in 2024, and it's gone up slightly this year. Not a statistically significant increase, but directionally heading in the right direction, both in terms of the percentage rating the value for taxes positively. We're seeing that go up, and there's been a drop in the percentage saying rating the value for taxes poorly. So things are trending in the right direction. When it comes to balancing taxation and service delivery levels, these remain similar. Attitudes remain similar to what we saw in 2024. More residents opt for service cuts at 47% over tax increases at 41%. I think it's important to note, however, neither option has majority of support. So there is still some divided opinions in the community about the direction they would like the city to take, even though balance cutting services comes out ahead. And this is unlike what we see in other communities where typically residents say they would rather pay increased taxes than cut services. That's not something we're seeing here. Moving on to satisfaction with council and administration. This is one area where we saw some significant declines in 2024, and I'm happy to say that satisfaction has largely rebounded. So this year we have 73% of residents saying they're satisfied with municipal government as a whole. That is up from 49% in 2024 and also sits higher than the municipal norm. A total of 71% say they're satisfied with council, excluding administration. That is also up from 2024, when only 42% of residents said they were satisfied. And satisfaction with administration, excluding council, sits at 69%. That's up slightly from 2024, not as a large of increase as we've seen for the other metrics, but still an improvement, although it does sit a little bit higher than the municipal norm. I think it's also worth noting that despite these improvements, still not quite reach the levels we saw in 2022. So when they did dip in 2024, we are seeing a significant improvement this year, but still sitting a little bit lower than those benchmark levels. And then lastly, perceptions of municipal operations are also positive. We are seeing some significant improvements here as well as compared to the last survey. So when we're looking at perceptions of inclusivity, the city fosters a community that's inclusive and accepting of all. 82% of residents agree with this overall. That's comparable to what we saw in past surveys. It's always been one that's rated higher. But this year we are seeing an increase in the percentage of residents saying they strongly agree with this. This is at 35% compared to 28% in 2024. And then in other areas, we're seeing more significant jumps. So when we look at perceptions of accountability to the community for leadership and good governance, this year we have 71% of residents agreeing, up from 56% in 2024. The city provides citizens with opportunities to have meaningful input into decision-making. That's at 67% agree, up from 50% agree in 2024. 64% of residents agree the city practices open and accessible government, up from 49%, and 61% agree the city uses input from citizens in decision-making about city projects and services, and that is up from 51%. And then lastly, 60% of residents agree the city does the best it can with the money available. That's up slightly, also from 2024 when it was only 54%. When we look at how this year's results compare to the norm, we see they're on par or exceed the norm in a few different areas. So areas where agreement is higher in Medicine Hat than the norm are accountability to the community for leadership and governance, and providing citizens with opportunities to have meaningful input into decision making. And that is the presentation, but happy to answer any questions you may
have. Councillor Reinish?
Thank you very much. Through the chair. Ms. Noss, working through Ipsos, you do a lot of these polls and you talk to a lot of people, and I thank you very much for your efforts, and to Colleen Graham and her team as well. Is there a big takeaway from this? Like, is there one or two things? That's a lot of information. Is there one or two things that you take away from this poll?
It is a lot of information. It covers lots of different areas, but I think one of the key takeaways for me is that the overall results are positive, and we're seeing improvement in a number of different areas. So those are always good signs, good takeaways to see. While there's still issues that residents would like to see addressed and areas to work on, I think the overall positive tone of the survey indicates the whole result should be viewed in a favorable context. And I encourage you to keep that in the back of your mind as you go through and digest the results in the days and months to come.
Councillor Varga.
Thank you, Your Worship. Since my first time on council, I've always struggled with surveys. And the point that I'm making is that it always occurs to me that out of this, we only had 767 people that actually answered the survey. I always think that it's not enough to get a good gauge on what our community is all about and what their struggles are and what they want for opportunities in the future. So to Ms. Noss, I just ask, is that enough participants to actually get a clear picture of what Medicine Hat's all about?
Yeah, it's a very good and typical sample size for this kind of survey. I think it's important to remember with this random telephone survey, the whole intention of it is to do a random sampling of the community, and then just with the scientific nature of the survey, we can then project those results onto the broader community. And that is kind of what our whole industry is based on. And so I know a sample size of 400 may sound small, but it does provide accurate and reliable results. And we see that reflected in the margin of error, plus or minus 4.9%. It's very good for this survey. I think you can be confident in the results of this. The online survey, like I said, is a little bit different. That one is not intended to be a representative sampling of community opinions. It's really focusing on inclusivity and giving everyone the opportunity to provide input that wants to. And I think it's just as valid and important to look at the feedback that is provided through the online survey as well.
Just a follow-up question. When the people were disqualified, was it for certain reasons that they were disqualified on the online? Was it because they were part of the city or worked for the city, or what was the stipulations for them not being able to do the online survey?
Nobody was disqualified from the online survey. Anyone who wanted to take part in that was able to. When we did the analysis to provide some apples to apples comparison with the telephone, we did filter the analysis for the report to specifically include those who were 18 years of age or older. They had to be a resident of Medicine Hat, and excluded those who worked for the city either as a staff or an elected official. They were still able to participate and provide their feedback, and you still have those results. They're just excluded from the analysis in the report.
So my last question is, comparing us to Red Deer or say Grand Prairie, do you get the same amount of people that participate in the survey? I'm sure you've done some for them.
Yeah, I can't comment on other municipalities that we've worked with and how that compares for specific examples, but generally I can say 400 sample size is a very typical sample size for this kind of survey. It typically falls in the average. It ranges anywhere from 300 to 500 tends to be a typical sample size. And then the online survey participation varies. In some cases, we only get a handful of people taking part in that. And then in other cases, we will get hundreds. I think it depends in part about what's happening in the community at that time. If everything's going well, you tend to get a lower response. If there's issues that people really feel passionately about and want to provide feedback on, that tends to drive the response to the online survey.
All right, thank you. In the past years, like 24 and 22, was it relatively the same? And are different people part of the survey then?
Yeah, so each year we do a random sampling of respondents for the telephone survey. We might capture some of the same people, but we're not purposely targeting the same people with the random telephone survey. The online survey, I cannot comment on who's choosing to take part in that each year. I can say that we did have a lower response to the online survey this year than we did in 2024. Keep in mind that the 2024 survey had a more negative tone to it. People were more critical. I think that was driving some of the online survey responses. With the improvement we're seeing in the survey results this year, I'm not surprised to see fewer people participating online.
Thank you for your work on this.
Councillor Pfaff.
So I think my question would probably be directed toward Managing Director Colleen, Graham? Director Graham. Councillor Hellman had mentioned we've been doing and perhaps the presenter did as well, that we've been doing this type of survey since 2022. I'm wondering before 2020, and currently we've done 3, so every 2 years essentially. So I'm wondering before 2022, how often do we do these?
Through the chair to Councillor Pfaff, thank you for the question. To my knowledge, there was not any scientific community surveys conducted prior to 2022. In my time here, it was certainly the first one. I can't speak to the entire history of the City of Medicine Hat, but I believe it was the first one.
Councillor Varga believes that Ted does know the entire history of the city and would like him to comment.
That is not my word, sorry. I did not say that across the table.
That's what I heard.
But I know that you're thinking over there, and I know that we did some kind of surveys in our time together for 8 years.
Through the chair, yeah, I know we did. I'm just trying to remember if they were scientific or not, or if they were just online. But I'm going to disagree, and I'm going to say over the years there were actual scientific polls done in the past.
Good to get some of those. Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Pfaff.
I have follow-up questions. So I guess, what was the impetus for doing this, and is it scheduled that we're going to be doing them every 2 years? I guess I'm wondering what the thought process behind, or what value we're getting out of them for doing them every 2 years. That's sort of what I'm
Sure.
wondering.
So thank you for the question. So as far as the 2-year rotation, I think that is, some communities do them every year. Some of them decide to only do them every 2 years simply because sometimes 12 months isn't long enough of a period for things to have really changed that materially. So there's an opportunity to wait that 24 months before conducting another one. I will take this opportunity to mention that our intention is to adjust the two-year rotation and actually conduct another one in 2027, because what we found is for this year, we were really hoping to get the results in front of you as quickly as possible as you headed into your strategic planning exercise. And because this is a budget development year as well, we thought the data would be helpful to have in advance of those exercises. So by conducting the survey in a non-budget development year and an off-cycle year for when a council would be developing a strategic plan, we're now going to be moving forward with them in the odd-numbered years rather than the even-numbered years. As far as the impetus behind the original development of a community survey, I would have been in 2020 or 2021, I brought forward a briefing note suggesting that it would be a valuable opportunity for both administration and city council to get a more accurate pulse on the community. It's very difficult to determine what actually is an accurate community sentiment on a variety of topics out in the community. We see a lot of things on social media. We get phone calls, we get emails, but it's very difficult to know what the more scientifically proven sentiment is out there, simply because for those who are maybe satisfied with the service, they're going to be less inclined to reach out. They're going to be less inclined to comment on social media. So this was a way of trying to get a more balanced view of what the viewpoints in the community are related to a variety of topics.
One final follow-up, and if you don't have the answer to this, you can get back to me, not to put you on the spot, but do you know roughly what the cost of the survey is?
I absolutely do. I believe this one came in at just under $40,000.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Cox.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't have a question for Ms. Naus. The question was asked, what should we take away from this? I suspect her perspective would be the data speaks for itself, or you draw your own conclusions, and I think that's a fair enough assessment. For myself, this confirms what I'm hearing in the community in many ways, and I won't go through all of them, but, and I'm sure we all experience this same sort of thing when you are in a coffee shop or a restaurant or wherever you may encounter members of the public. I often get asked, so how are things at City Hall? And my response is always to say, well, I think you should tell me how things are at City Hall. That's, I think we've got a council that's getting along, we're respectful, I'm liking being back in the Horseshoe, but you tell me what you think about how things are going. And you get a variety of opinions, but among those things, and overwhelmingly, and I look to the satisfaction with council and administration, people have a perception that we're in better shape than we were in 2024. And that's what these statistics clearly demonstrate. And without going into all of the hardships and the angst and the frustrations that those councillors experienced among themselves back in 2024 and that the community experienced with them, I think we can safely say that there is a sense of positive engagement of we've got a good group around the table now and they're talking to each other and they're making decisions and we like the way things are shaping up. So these results confirm what I'm sensing from the community, and I take some sense of positive pride in that.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. Councillor Mohammed.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I guess my question is around questions, gathering that we're finalizing some of our strategic plan here. Have you had a chance to switch some of these questions, or is there an opportunity to change some of the questions should this council decide to ask different questions based on our priorities? Thank you.
I can answer that, and then I don't know if Colleen wants to jump in as well. But we've kept the questionnaire was developed based on questions that we commonly ask in other communities for this type of survey. There is an opportunity to update that each year the research is conducted. I believe that the 3 surveys have used consistent questions from year to year, so there haven't been any changes, but there is an opportunity to do that each and every year the survey is conducted.
And generally speaking, I think the consistency of the questions is good, but to add questions, I think to get a sense of alignment with our strategic plan is a great idea. Did you have a follow-up? Councillor Young.
Yeah, appreciate that. And to the strategic plan, I think that's a great, Councillor Mohammed, I think that's a great perspective. This is not gospel. This is a snapshot in time, right? And so we know that. So we're meant to look at this information with a grain of salt, understanding that it can change, but pulling kind of main themes from it. So obviously, I think to Councillor Mohammed, let's take a look at it in relation to our strategic plan. And we don't need to say, okay, like, I don't think we should make hard and fast policy based on an Ipsos survey, but I think it gives us a good idea of where we're at. And I think for me, just personally, I do appreciate this. One of the things that I have found most challenging about this is just the amount of negativity. Being a first-time councillor, my first time in municipal politics, I feel like I'm constantly bombarded with negativity, and rightfully so. I understand people are upset about lots of things, but this is wrong. You're not doing this. You're not doing this. You should be doing this, and it's like when you're hearing that all the time, you start to see everything in that lens, and it can kind of color a lot of things. So I do appreciate once in a while being able to see something and go, well, no, it's actually not all doom and gloom. That doesn't mean we don't listen to people who are upset. But it means that, you know, there definitely is some rays of sunshine here. And so I really, really appreciate that. So, yeah, let's just take a look at this. Let's take the wins. Let's understand the challenges, and let's move forward.
Thank you. Councillor Young, I wonder, like, it seems like this is basically a direct report of what was heard. Do we have access to the raw data, rows and columns? Because it seems to me that this data could be mined for other insights, statistically significant correlations between different vectors in the data. So I'm just wondering if we have that raw data, or we will be provided with the raw data. You have to come up to the, who, well, I don't really mind who answers it.
I'm not sure if Colleen is going or if I should provide a response.
I'd be happy to defer to you, Catherine. I know we
Okay.
have some detailed tables, but you'd be able to probably provide a more robust answer.
Yeah. So we haven't provided the raw data per se, but we have provided with detailed crosstabs of the data, so that these tables will provide you with the overall results for each question, as well as how they break out by key demographic groups. So you can look at how they break out by gender or age or neighborhood, whatever it might be, number of years living in Medicine Hat. All that is there for you. Those tables will flag where there's any statistically significant differences. So we have summarized a lot of that in the full report, but there's always opportunities to go and dig a little bit deeper. If there's something you want specific feedback on, that is all included in those tables, and Colleen does have those.
Can council have those? Thank you very much. The crosstabs?
Yeah.
There's more than what's in the report.
Yeah. Okay. That is basically what I was looking for. Thank you. And with that, I don't see any further speakers. So I appreciate the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Director Graham.
Thank you, Mayor Clark. Just one more point for everyone to know. The full report that's in the package tonight will be published on the website tomorrow as well, for everyone who's interested in taking a bit of a deeper dive, because not all of the information was covered in the presentation tonight.
Thank you. You're off the hook for this one, Councillor Hellman. This is item 11.1, 2025 City of Medicine Hat financial statements.
Excuse me, we need
oh.
to vote.
No,
We don't need to vote to accept this?
no, it's just for information.
We don't vote for,
We already received it. Pardon? Yeah. 11.1 is 2025 City of Medicine Hat financial statements. We have interim managing director of corporate services, Lola Barda, manager, financial control and reporting, city controller, Kristen Young, and Bandy Bishop, treasury and insurance officer. And they have a presentation, but first I will turn it over to the chair of audit committee for her introduction.
Okay, welcome again, Managing Director Barda. So we are talking about the City of Medicine Hat financial statements, the thing everyone's looking forward to, at least me. The financial statements are presented for council's approval. Upon approval, the auditors will date and issue their audit opinion. Council approval is required before the audit report can be finalized and released. The 2025 financial report reflects a strong commitment to transparency, aiming to clearly present the City of Medicine Hat's financial narrative and encouraging stakeholders and interested readers to engage with the report. Turn it over to Lola and team to provide a presentation.
Thank you. So we are pleased to present the 2025 CFO and financial results for the city. And along with myself, I've got a couple colleagues with me. So Kristen Young, our Manager of Financial Control and Reporting and City Controller, and Bandy Bishop, our Treasury and Insurance Officer, will also be presenting part of this report. Just a little help with advancing, please. Thank you. So we'll take a look at our current environment, financial performance, and some items of interest. So we'll take a look at some external challenges. Alberta inflation was at 2.1% at December 31st, which is more in line with historical levels. However, price levels are still high because previous high inflation rates set a new higher baseline. Businesses have higher operational costs such as labor, raw materials, fuel, transportation, so these continue to be passed on to the consumer. The Bank of Canada has lowered its policy rate several times during 2025, ending at 2.25%. The lower rates reduce future borrowing costs, but also signals a slowing economy. Core inflation was at 2.8%. So core inflation excludes volatile items like food and energy. This is still above the 2% target, which indicates some ongoing cost pressures. Canadian dollar remained around 73 cents US throughout most of 2025. A softer Canadian dollar means many of the goods that we purchase, especially equipment, technology, specialized materials priced in US dollars, will cost us more. And the United States imposed a 35% tariff on Canadian goods in August. These changes increased the procurement and operational costs for the city. So altogether, these items contribute to higher costs. While the economic environment is more stable than in previous high inflation years, these incremental pressures continue to influence our budgeting, service delivery, and long-term financial planning. Just taking a look at the commodity prices, this slide shows the volatility in both power and natural gas prices over the past 3 years. So in 2023, the actual power prices were $133 per megawatt hour, reflecting a period of elevated market price across the province. In 2024, the prices dropped significantly to $63 per megawatt hour, aligning with easing market pressures. And for 2025, we budgeted at $53 per megawatt hour, with actual results coming in lower at $44 per megawatt hour, and that was due to additions of renewable generations and other supply sources which have outpaced demand. Forward forecasts are showing a slight price movement, but they should stay within the $45 to $55 range for 2026. Gas prices have also fluctuated throughout the 3-year period. In 2023, actuals were $2.74 a gigajoule, dropping significantly in 2024 to $1.45. And that's due to North America continue to experience oversupply in the market. The 2025 budget assumed prices would strengthen to $2.50, but the actual 2025 price was $1.43, again, due to the oversupply in the market. So this volatility reinforces the importance of maintaining strong financial reserves and long-term financial planning to manage risk.
Councillor Pfaff has a question on the previous slide. Thank you.
So we talked about this in audit committee about these prices. I just wanted to reiterate it, I guess. So I just wanted to point out that we budgeted $53 megawatt hour for electricity. Essentially, that would be focusing on bringing in, like, we would expect $53 megawatt hour for revenue. Instead, we were at 44. So that's, $9 difference, which is bad for the city's revenue. And then looking at gas, sort of same deal. We're looking at we estimated $2.50 a gigajoule. We got $1.43 a gigajoule. So again, that seems like we lost revenue there again. However, you pointed something out to me in committee that I would like you to point out here, that it's not all bad. So if you could mention that.
Sure, yeah, so you're correct. Power prices would impact our revenues on our electric production, and then the gas prices would impact our revenues on our gas production business units. However, the electric generation facility also uses natural gas to produce its power. So a lower cost in natural gas prices would actually benefit the power plant because they're seeing those cost savings from the reduced gas prices.
But aren't we the gas city, Managing Director Barda?
We are.
But how much, I guess what I'm getting at is, could you just reiterate or mention how much we actually self-supply on gas for our usage, on electricity generation or just use in general?
Yeah, so that amount has been declining over the years as we are exiting our gas production. So we're doing a lot more abandonments, and what we are producing is not sufficient to contribute to the amount that we are using at our electric power plant facility or even distributing to our residents. So we are purchasing more from the market.
Right, so essentially a lower gas price actually benefits the city because we're purchasing more gas than we're actually selling.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Good point.
Okay, the MGA requires an audit of our financial statements annually with statements required to be submitted to the Alberta government by May 1st of each year. M&P was approved as our external auditor for 2025. The role of the external auditor is to present an independent opinion on the fair presentation of the city's financial position and operating results as contained in the financial report, and to express an opinion that the financial statements are free from any material misstatements. The auditor advises management and the audit committee of any control or operational matters that may have been identified during the audit. So that would have been discussed at audit committee. As discussed at audit committee, MNP will be providing a clean audit opinion for 2025. Councillor Pfaff did draw attention to this at the beginning of the meeting. The Government Finance Officers Association was awarded to the City of Medicine Hat for the Canadian Award for Financial Reporting, and that was the 23rd year in a row. So with that, I'll turn it over to Kristen Young to go through the financial performance.
Okay, thank you for having me. So I will be discussing the financial results for the year ending December 31st. I guess I should turn the slide. So to begin, these are in comparison to prior year December, so for 2024. Our investment portfolio has increased by $87 million from 2024. The investment portfolio represents all of our cash and reserves that are being held and invested. The increased investment portfolio is largely due to year-to-date returns on investments and replenishing our cash funds through debenture borrowings. Debt has increased by $56 million due to a total of $81 million in debenture borrowings received in 2025, net of $25 million in debenture payments made throughout the year. Our asset retirement obligations increased this year by $48 million due to the recognition of power generation obligations. Net capital assets increased $64 million at December 31st, mainly as a result of current year capital additions of $108 million, recognition of the Arrow asset that I mentioned, offset by annual amortization expenses. One key indicator the city looks at is net financial assets. We want to ensure that we have enough liquid assets to satisfy our liabilities. Net financial assets to December 31st were $184 million, which is slightly down from the prior year. So while we saw growth in investments due to higher financial investment returns, the liabilities also increased as a result of the new long-term debt borrowings and the higher asset retirement obligation. Overall, net financial assets have continued to rise steadily over the past 5 years, driven primarily by the growth in financial investments and reduction in gas production asset retirement obligations. So these numbers reflect our ending 2025 operations as compared to budget. Revenue is $28 million higher than budget, mainly due to higher than budgeted investment returns, due to a better than anticipated market performance, as well as the recognition of gains as a result of rebalancing the portfolio. In addition, higher than anticipated land sales occurred throughout 2025 on residential lots. This, however, is offset by lower revenue in energy production as a result of lower electric revenues and lower gas revenues, all related to lower commodity prices. Expenses ended the year $8 million under budget. This is related to less than budgeted spending in contracted and general services as more work is being done internally. In addition, there was a $5.5 million recovery in oil and gas assets, which was not budgeted. Capital grants and contributions are $6 million higher than budget, mainly due to unbudgeted asset contributions from developers of subdivisions. As a result of the above, our annual surplus was $40 million, which is favorable by $42 million. It is important to note here that without the unanticipated investment revenue, this surplus would not have occurred, and further highlights the importance of investment income to the city's sustainability. So now we're going to look at each of the business units and their annual performance. Municipal or tax-supported operations before investment income and reserve transfers ended the year with a shortfall of $38.2 million. This is a result of lower court fine revenue due to new provincial legislation, unbudgeted legal fees related to access to information requests, higher costs in parks and recreation due to unbudgeted salaries and wages to meet seasonal requirements and address encampment cleanup, higher salaries and wages in fire and emergency services due to ongoing contract negotiations, which are anticipated to be settled higher than budgeted rates, and greater than budgeted employee benefits. This unfavorable variance is offset by less than budgeted grants in lieu of taxes write-offs and three large permit applications that were received in planning and development and positional vacancies. As a result of planned or budgeted reserve transfers, and the higher than budgeted investment income, municipal operations ended the year with a $10.5 million surplus, which was transferred to reserves to offset investment losses in the future. This surplus is compared to the $11.1 million budgeted deficit. We will talk about investments more shortly, but I would like to highlight that without the unusual investment returns we got this year, we would be taking money from reserves to offset the municipal cost rather than putting it in. These high returns are not anticipated to continue into 2026. This next slide discusses the operating performance of the land and real estate, rate-based, and energy production business units. Land ended the year with a deficit of $0.5 million, which is better than budget by $0.3 million. This is primarily due to more lot sales than were originally budgeted. Rate-based utilities refers to our utility business units, which includes gas and electric distribution, and environmental utilities, which are comprised of water, sewer, and solid waste. Rate-based utilities ended the year $3.8 million favorable from budget, primarily due to increased transmission demand in electric distribution, increased consumption in gas distribution, the one-time sale of recycling carts, switching suppliers for chemical and water, and the delay in opening of the solids handling facility. This favorable variance is offset by unbudgeted employee benefits and a decrease in the market value of carbon credits and solid waste. In addition, the grant related to an extension for emission offsets beyond 2024 for the current solids handling facility was not approved. Energy production refers to gas and electric production. Energy production finished the year with a favorable variance of $1 million. This is primarily due to higher electric commodity prices, offset by lower gas commodity pricing due to production issues and an oversupplied market. Electric generation also saw cost savings from the lower gas commodity prices and lower carbon tax as a result of acquiring lower cost credits. Free cash flow, which is the cash generated after taking into consideration cash outflows that support operations and maintain capital assets, was $31.8 million at year end. This is a positive impact of $15.1 million to reserves than what was budgeted, and is mainly a result of sewer needing less free cash flow to sustain operations, and solid waste, land, and electric generation being able to contribute more. The approved open capital projects have a total budget of $751 million. This includes current year approved capital and prior year carry forward projects. Amounts spent and committed to December 31st on these projects totaled $473 million, and a further spending of $271 million is projected. The total spend on approved projects is expected to be lower than budget by $7 million and is mainly related to lower than expected costs in gas production abandonments. As per Council's motion on June 16th, 2025, people metrics are now included in the triannual report. The pie chart on the left breaks out the total headcount by employment type. Employment type definitions can be found in the summary report in your package. The summary report also goes into more detail about which union and non-union each of the employment types fall. The total headcount at December 31st is 1,547. It is prudent to note that full-time equivalent and headcount are not the same thing. Total headcount refers to the total number of individuals employed by the organization, which includes both permanent and temporary employees. Full-time equivalents, or FTEs, is a measure that standardizes employee workload into the equivalent of full-time positions. FTEs combine both part-time and full-time workers' hours to determine how many full-time employees it would take to meet staffing needs. Therefore, several individuals could make up 1.0 FTEs. Given the complexity of this metric, the city continues to work on a process to report on FTEs. At December 31st, 14 severance payments have either been made or agreed upon, totaling $1.5 million. 42 bonus payments have also been made with a cumulative total of $532,000. These bonus payments were made in 2025 and based on 2024 metrics. These payments have been paid through energy operating funds. So budget amendments outside of the formal budget process may be necessary to address unforeseen changes in financial and economic circumstances. Council's role is to approve any budget amendments that change the operating or capital budgets due to changes in service levels, funding increases or decreases, expense increases or decreases, changes in project or initiative scope, or new funding sources. During 2025, 13 operating budgets were approved, including 3 for the 2026 budget update, with a net effect of $863,000. This equates to a 0.6 tax increase. 5 capital budget amendments were approved, again including 3 for the budget update, with a net effect of $3 million, which equated to a 1.51% tax increase. Therefore, the total impact on taxes related to budget amendments approved by Council in 2025 was 2.11%. Details of these amendments are included in the package. As per our organization administration bylaw and per policy 0183, the city manager may approve changes within the approved operating or capital budgets. This includes items like funding source changes or allocation of budgets between departments. The city manager may only increase operating or capital budgets upon utilization of previously approved contingency budgets. The budget policy also allows the city manager to approve power plant critical infrastructure, which ensures there is no disruption in operations. 9 operating budget amendments were approved in 2025 by the city manager. The total of the reallocation is $181,000. However, the net impact to the organization is 0, as all these amounts were reallocated within departments. 9 capital budget amendments were also approved. The total reallocation of the capital was $20.5 million. However, again, it was a net 0 impact as all the projects were previously approved. 1 critical repair was approved, totaling $3.1 million, related to the Unit 11 overhaul and Unit 14 hot section repairs and electric generation. There are also 3 approved contingency budgets. At December 31st, only the CAO operating contingency budget has been used. The first budget amendment that was approved to use it was related to a data enhancement grant, which is a new initiative in police. As this was considered a new project, the contingency was used to approve the increase in revenue and expenses with the intent of the grant repaying the contingency. The second amendment is related to funding the personnel matter investigation, which was approved by Council on July 28th. The CAO capital contingency and grant contingency were not used as of December 31st. The details of all these adjustments, again, can be found in the report. Financial reserves at December 31st are $841 million. As I mentioned earlier, this is increased from 2024, mainly due to the increase in investment returns, the additional long-term debt that was borrowed in the year, and free cash flow. There are several important things to remember when it comes to reserves. First, as reserve funds are drawn down upon to offset obligations such as the budget gap, property tax increases, or capital requests, the value of our investments will decrease. As the value of our investments decreases, our investment income decreases. As we saw previously, investment income is the reason why municipal operations was in a surplus position. Without it, that draw would have come from reserves, and the cycle of lower returns on a lower balance will continue. In addition, a majority of these funds are restricted by policy and bylaw and cannot be drawn upon unless certain criteria are met. Therefore, although the ending number may seem big, there is a deeper context of these funds that needs to be understood when making strategic decisions regarding the use of reserve funds. I will now pass it on to Vandy.
At December 31st, 2025, the city had $841 million in cash and reserves that is all invested to form the investment portfolio. This was an increase of $87 million from the prior year. The investment portfolio saw an overall return of 11.16% in 2025, which outperformed the benchmark by 1.69%. Please keep in mind that this performance consists of both realized and unrealized returns. Not all of this is received as income in the year. The city's portfolio is well diversified by asset class and geography and is expected to generate a positive annual return of 5.5% over a rolling 5-year period. So what were the investment return drivers that generated this positive return, and what were the detractors that held it back? The return drivers. AI companies continued to see high demand with significant capital expenditure. A few major technology companies, known as the Magnificent Seven, including NVIDIA, Microsoft, Alphabet, Meta, Amazon, Apple, and Tesla, were responsible for a substantial portion of the S&P 500's gains, driving over 40% of the index's return in the first half of the year. After a sharp, tariff-driven dip early in the year and fears of recession and high interest rates, resilient consumer spending and corporate profits resulted in positive economic growth in 2025. Central banks, including the Bank of Canada and the Federal Reserve, cut interest rates throughout the year, which bolstered fixed income returns and provided a favorable backdrop for equities. The Canadian market performed exceptionally well in 2025, with returns nearly double those of the U.S. stocks in some periods, driven by strong performance in financials, energy, and gold. It was actually the best year the Canadian market has had since 2009. The investment detractors or negative return drivers. It was having the right investments in 2025 was the key to performance, as it was heavily skewed with just a few AI-leveraged mega-cap stocks driving the majority of the returns, leaving behind significant underperformers. And as markets surged, cash acted as a heavy backpack, limiting portfolio growth. Central bank rate cuts had a direct impact on the returns available on cash. As mentioned previously, the City of Medicine Hat experienced an 11.16% total portfolio return up to the end of December 2025. Again, I'm going to point out this is both realized and unrealized returns. The above chart breaks down the investment returns by asset class compared to their respective benchmarks. Working capital is closely tied to the Bank of Canada rate, which reduced by a full 1% in 2025. However, we were able to outperform the benchmark by 48 basis points. Fixed income bonds regained appeal in 2025 due to the Bank of Canada and U.S. Federal Reserve both lowering their policy rates. Our fixed income investments were able to outperform the benchmark by 186 basis points. Canadian equity performance was led by gold price appreciation, and while the return was excellent, it lagged the benchmark slightly. This is solely the result of our investment having a lower allocation to gold than the benchmark. Global equities were led by surging U.S. stocks and even stronger performance for international equities. Our global equities were able to outperform the benchmark by nearly 3%. Commercial mortgages have continued to provide steady positive performance as well as good diversification and steady income, outperforming its relative benchmark by 157 basis points. The bottom three, infrastructure, real estate, and private credit alternative investments, had mixed performance in 2025, with some sectors showing strong performance and others facing challenges. There are 3 factors to consider. All have the same inflation-driven benchmark of CPI plus 4%, which has been a difficult benchmark to outperform. Performance reporting is received on a quarter lag, so the results shown here are mostly reflective of up to Q3 2025. And lastly, all three asset classes are invested in foreign-denominated assets, which had a negative overall impact on performance once converted to the Canadian dollar. The city's investment portfolio has seen tremendous change over the years. It not only has grown from $415 million in 2018 to $841 million in 2025, but it has evolved to now include 12 investment mandates with 11 different investment managers. It is now a much more diversified portfolio, both in terms of asset class and geography. It is expected to generate a positive annual total return of 5.5% over a rolling 5-year period. The current 5-year average return is 6.7%. These returns represent total returns, both realized and unrealized. One thing to highlight is the large dip in 2022. This was caused primarily by 40-year high inflation rates, combined with Russia's invasion of Ukraine and lingering supply chain disruptions from the pandemic. While it appears to be an anomaly, this type of market volatility is expected to happen again. The question is when. One more point to make on here, it's estimated that a 1% change in return will equal about a $5 million impact to our realized return, the earnings we actually generate. Now on to debt. The City of Medicine Hat utilizes debt to finance a portion of its capital program. Outstanding debt as of December 31st, 2025 was $465 million, consisting of long-term debt, letters of credit, credit card debt, and loan guarantees, with an overall debt-to-revenue percentage of 53%. The use of debt is closely monitored to ensure the city remains within the Municipal Government Act regulation. The legislated limit within the MGA is 100% of 2 times revenue. Because of the volatile commodity revenue within our business units, the city has established an internal policy limit of 70% of 2 times revenue. This internal policy limit acts as a warning track for the city to be proactive in making adjustments to debt management before reaching the MGA limit. Outstanding debt has interest payable at rates ranging from 1.79% to 6.25%, with an average annual interest rate of 3.48%. Interest on long-term debt paid in 2025 was $13 million. In 2026, a 19% drop in revenue would result in the debt-to-revenue percentage reaching the 70% city policy limit. Also to note, 2026 does not include the approved Sama Solar project in this chart, as it was not approved before the end of 2025. And I will turn it back over to Managing Director Bravo.
All right, so just to highlight a few items here, the next 2 slides highlight several of the key strategic priorities and achievements delivered throughout 2025. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'll just touch on a few items here. So one of them was we achieved Culture City Sensory Inclusive Certificate at Co-op Place and Esplanade. This ensured community spaces are more accessible and inclusive. We had the Rec and Ride program, which supported youth access to transit and rec opportunities, which reduced some of the cost barriers for participation. We hosted the Opportunity Medicine Hat, showcasing our city and helping to assist new investment and partnerships. We published the external service level, municipal service level inventory, which provides greater clarity on city services and standards. And we improved adapted transit services, which enhance accessibility, meeting the needs of riders. Overall, these achievements demonstrated meaningful progress across economic development, community well-being, accessibility, transparency, and service excellence. Work progressed on developing neighborhood associations, creating stronger local networks. We received various federal and provincial funding, enabling us to advance key programs and capital projects without increasing financial pressures on residents. We advanced the community well-being plan and continued programs that improve vibrancy and connection, including providing microgrants, community warmth programs, and the work of the Resilient and Inclusive Task Force. We completed significant underground infrastructure projects, ensuring our core systems remain reliable, safe, and ready to meet future needs. So these initiatives reflect meaningful progress in community well-being, infrastructure, partnership building, and long-term strategic planning, reinforcing our commitment to a resilient and vibrant Medicine Hat. I also want to note that the city's annual report will be coming out in May and will be posted on the city's website in June, and will provide more information on all of these projects and initiatives completed in 2025. So I would encourage everyone to take a chance to review that report. And we're happy to take any questions that council may have.
I don't see any speakers, but I will accept a motion to approve the 2025 City of Medicine Hat financial statements.
So moved.
I'll second.
Thank you. Still no, Councillor Cox.
Question for Managing Director Barta. Overall surplus this year was 10 million. Did I understand that correctly?
That's correct.
And is that after the budget amendments found on page 481, the 0.6% for operating and the 1.5% for capital? Is that measurement against those increases in the budget?
That would be correct, yeah. And the 10.5 is just in relation to our municipal operations.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Seeing no further speakers, we'll vote on approval of the financial statements. That passes. Thank you very much, all of you. Next up is a bylaw for first reading only. Bylaw 4883, 2026, rezoning 21 Ranchlands Boulevard Northeast.
So moved.
Second.
First reading, we will vote on first reading. That passes. 11.3, 2026 reappointment of MNP as external auditors. Councillor Hellman?
Nope.
Oh, my apologies. I apologize.
So, yes, in 2023, City Council approved MNP LLP, a local company, as the external auditors for the City of Medicine Hat to audit the financial statements with an option to extend engagement 1 year at a time up to an additional 4 years, which would take us to 2027, subject to City Council's annual reappointment of auditors. Fees proposed by MNP for professional services are in the briefing note. In 2025, the fees are higher due to additional audit requirements for the city's pension plans, which is required every 3 years. So that's all. I don't know if and I'll make the motion. Yes, I will, if I can get, okay, so anyways, I move that council gives first reading to bylaw 4883-2. Nope, sorry, I apologize. That would make more sense. I move that council approves the reappointment of MNP M&P LLP for the City of Medicine Hat annual audit engagement for the 2026 financial statements.
I'll second.
Thank you. Do you have anything to add, Interim Manager Director Barta? No? Okay. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we will vote on the motion to reappoint MNP LLP. And that passes. Finally, we have a notice of motion sponsored by Councillor Pfaff regarding alcohol in public city parks pilot project. The motion is in the package, but if you would like to read your, I know I'm talking very slowly, read your motion into the record, please do so.
Okay, yes, this is just a notice of motion, so not voting on it, just letting you know it's coming up at the next meeting. So whereas policy 0130, the city's alcohol management policy, provides mechanisms for approval of sale and consumption of alcohol on or within city land and city facilities. Now therefore be it resolved that council directs administration to develop and implement a pilot program to permit alcohol consumption in designated city park areas from July 1st, 2026 to September 30th, September 30th, 2026. The pilot project must be in accordance with applicable legislation and city bylaws and policies and include clear rules and limitations, include public communication and signage outlining permitted use and expectations for responsible behavior, and involve engagement with the community before, during, and after the pilot project to gauge impact and public opinion. And then report back to council at the conclusion of the pilot with findings, including data on enforcement issues, safety impacts, and community feedback, as well as recommendations on whether to expand, modify, or discontinue the program. That's my notice of motion.
Thank you. So since it is a notice of motion, it will go on the agenda next meeting for discussion unless you wish to, okay. That's the last item of business. Any objections to adjourning the meeting? Seeing none, the meeting is adjourned at 8:51 p.m.